Well, if anything, this movie did make me a lot more grateful for all my appendages. Hardcore Henry is the new first-person action movie. The whole movie is shot to be seen from the perspective as if we are the main character, Henry. The filmmaker said he really wanted to make an immersive film that transcended from being a gimmick into an experience, in his own words. He wanted to make it very immersive and make it feel like we were actually there in the action. I'm not really going to tell too many of the plot details because at the end of the day, this movie doesn't have the strongest plot, but it isn't really trying to. If there's anything that I can say about this movie that I really, really loved, it's that it knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it knew exactly what it was. This movie didn't try to pretend to be anything it wasn't. It knew it was kind of dumb fun in an action movie, and that's what it did, that's what it tried to do, and that's what it ultimately succeeded at doing to a certain extent. There was a lot of dumb action fun to be had in this movie, very brainless violence. It was very, very, very gory, violent, and it hurt a couple times. I cringed at what was happening on the screen. I almost couldn't watch, but it was still a lot of fun in those situations. I had one really major gripe with this movie, though, that really got to me, that may not have gotten to other people, but it bothered me a lot. There have been films like this on YouTube before, just kind of short films, and I believe one was even made by the same filmmaker. I haven't looked into that a ton, but I believe they kind of made one like 12-minute video, and that kind of led to this full feature-length movie. And in those videos, it looks more like one cut. There aren't hard camera cuts, and if there are camera cuts, which there obviously have to be in the making of a movie, they're more hidden. This movie uses just very blatant, like any other movie, camera cuts. And that actually was a big problem to me. I know it's more difficult to make a movie that looks like it's all one shot, and so maybe it was a technical nightmare. But when the camera does these hard cuts, at certain times it totally just pulled me out. And if he's trying to make an immersive experience, getting pulled out like that, it just didn't work. It worked really well in certain in-between scenes, like when they say they have to get across town. Okay, you can use camera cuts and we're across town. That's fine, I understand that. But there were other scenes, like one scene in particular I can think of. He tries to scale a wall to get to the top floor of a building, and as he's scaling the wall, it keeps cutting, and he'll be on a different part of the wall, and it really pulls you out of the action because you're missing information, and it makes it almost feel more like a montage of him climbing a wall than you feel like you're actually there climbing the wall. And it does that in every scene. Some scenes were moving too fast to really tell, but with the way they were moving quickly, the first person and the camera cuts, it made it really hard to follow the action. At one point, I may be wrong about this, but it looked like they were running into like a big, expansive city park, and then it cut, and they were coming out of an alleyway into a really busy city street. And I just kind of thought, well, how did we get here? We missed information in the middle, and it just pulled me out of it again. I couldn't feel myself getting really immersive with the first-person camera because it was just cutting around, it was jumping around, and I couldn't really follow what was happening all the time. I really wish there had been more of an effort made to either hide the camera cuts or only use them at the right times, but this movie does deliver in some pretty big ways. The very, very end action sequence was actually pretty cool, and I found myself getting really into it. The other ones before that, since it was basically non-stop action, I had a little bit of trouble getting into some of the earlier ones, but then at the end it really got me with the final act. I thought it did a really good job. Charlton Copley in this movie, I may have said that name wrong, but you could just tell he was having a blast making this movie. You could just see it in everything he did. I don't want to reveal much of the nature of his character, but he was just having so much fun, and you could tell. Anyone who sees the movie could probably tell as well, just because of the things he was doing and the things he had to do in this movie. At times the movie does attempt to make jokes, and the jokes don't always land. Sometimes they do land, but the movie knows what it is. It's dumb fun. It's just there for you to go have a good time, flip your brain off for a little bit. You'll have a couple laughs here and there. You may miss a few. You may get a little confused at times, but you'll get to see some people get beat up. And at the end of the day, that's all this movie's really trying to do, is entertain you for an hour and a half, and I think it succeeded in that job really well. So, as long as you know that's what you're getting yourself into, I think it's a good time, and I'm going to give it a 3.7 out of 5. I was really excited for this one. It ended up disappointing in some ways with those camera cuts and such, but some of the action really delivered, and so I left the theater pretty happy. Thank you guys so much for watching. All the links you need to know are in the description below, and have a lovely day.